Hello and welcome back. We discussed what literature is, we look at some functions, and we saw um, prose as one of the genres of literature. And now we're moving on to poetry. What is poetry? We have a beautiful definition here from the Encyclopedia Britannica, which says literature that evokes a concentrated, imaginative awareness of experience or specific emotional response through language chosen and arranged for its meaning, sound, and rhythm. That's a beautiful thing. So we've noted that poetry, the language is concentrated. Of course, it does with imagination. The language is chosen, it is not random. It's chosen, it's conscious, and also arranged for three specific things for meaning, for sound, and also for rhythm. It means in poetry, all of these three could be there, or one or two of them. There must be meaning, there must be sound, there's a possibility of rhythm. It doesn't mean if you see a poem that contains meaning more dominantly, it's not poetry. But you see meaning, you see sound, you see rhythm most of the times in poetry. The language is concentrated. So that is what makes poetry distinct from prose and drama as types of literature. We're going to look at some of the features of poetry. One of them is that it is written in stanzas, what I like to call poetic paragraph. You see, prose is written in paragraphs, but poetry is a concentrated language, uses few words. And so the paragraph for poems or poetry is called stanza. And then it has characters, just like prose. There hardly is any types of literature, any type of genre, any genre of literature without character. So you can find some characters in poetry. And then, yes, some poems like narrative poetry also have a plot, like a story. They have a beginning, they have a middle, and they have an end. And they may also have conflict, a problem that is to be solved. In fact, if you look at Shakespeare's sonnets, uh, the arrangement or even the line, the first quatrain, which is the first four lines, introduces the problem. And then the second quatrain, which is the second four lines, compounds the problem. And then the problems reach the crescendo in the third quatrain. Eventually, they are resolved, comes to a conclusion in the couplet, the two lines, the final two lines. So, yes, you can have conflict in even poetry. Then setting, as we discussed in the case of prose, of course, the poems can also be set, which about time and place. So if you read Shakespeare's sonnet, it's completely different from the poems we read around in 2020, completely different. So time, culture, people also have a great say in the kind of poems that they write. Then we have theme. Every poem has a subject matter, and behind the subject matter is a theme. The lesson that the subject matter seeks to teach becomes the theme. It is of prose, it is of poetry. Equally, dramas also have themes. And of course, the style for poetry is the economy of words. Poetry behaves as though words are uh, very uncommon and have to be economized like resources. So you can see that it is concentrated. Few words are used, but they are loaded with meaning. Every single thing counts in poetry. And of course, as we saw in the definition from the Encyclopedia Britannica, poetry has meaning, it has sound, and it has rhythm. Let's just look at an example of poetry. It's easy to provide an example of poetry because it's very brief. There's something I put on paper by the mountain. It says, by the mountain I stand with eyes fixed on the green all around me near and far, so peaceful and calm and need not to be mixed with the trouble with the outside, hot as star, Africa. Let me be true to you as to a brother. Let me be dear to you as to a mother, and let me protect you as your father, and wrap my hands around you as your sister. So yes, this is tells a story. Persona or the individual speaking in the poem stands by a mountain, all green and peaceful, doesn't want to go back to the problem being compared to tar, And then speaking to Africa as though Africa were a human that he wants to protect, showing the love for his or her continent. Simple, but you can discuss this poem in many beautiful ways. You can see that fixed rhymes with mixed, far rhymes with tar. You can see brother, mother, father, sister, all rhyming, producing sound and rhythm, being characteristic features of poetry. At the same time, they tell a story. And there could be a lesson around this subject matter of being by the mountain. Maybe teaching patriotism, the love for one's country or continent, whatever the case is. So being very brief, we still can learn a lot of things from poetry. This is just to demonstrate what poetry looks like and what we can learn from it as a type of literature. This being just an introduction to the subject of literature. Then we have another major type of literature called drama. And drama, I like to say, is literature that is acted, imitated human action. I mean, human action that is imitated. So you see a movie, that's a drama. It can be written, it can be acted. Then we want to look at features of drama. One of the major characteristic features of drama is that it has dialogue. So you could see that drama, you could see in movies, dialogue, conversation, very characteristic of it. It's not as common to see dialogue in poetry and prose as you would see in drama. Then the drama is divided into the major divisions of acts, further divided into the minor ones of scenes. So one act could contain several scenes. So that's why you see Act 1, Scene 2, like that. So drama is divided into acts and scenes. Then, of course, just like prose poetry, we have characters, we have a plot, which is the storyline. We still have conflict in drama. We have setting, and we also have theme in drama. And because it is acted, it has the storyline is also there. So we have what we call the Freytag pyramid. The Freytag pyramid talks about the beginning of a drama all the way to the end of it. So we have the exposition where the conflict that begins the storyline gets exposed. And that conflict goes to the rising action. It reaches the climax, as you can see from the pic. And then we have the falling action. Then we have the denouement, which is the solving of the problem completely. So, for example, you see the movie Great Debaters, a small college called Wiley College, set in the 1930s, engaged in debate. And so they had an ambition to be able to become a national champion or the world champion, whatever the case is. And then they began to beat other schools in debate. And all the way it reached the climax when they met Harvard University. Of course, Harvard was and still is Harvard. And then that was the climax. And they beat Harvard. And then we can now heave a sigh of relief. Oh, the goal that they wanted to achieve has been accomplished. And then we heave a sigh of relief. The story ends on a beautiful note. The ambition that they had at the beginning had been fulfilled. So that's very common with drama. It's exposition, rise in action, climax, fall in action, and the resolution or the denouement. Then we have types of drama, dramatic types. We have comedy. Comedy is a type of drama whose main focus is to make people happy, is to make people laugh. So, yes, drama that makes people laugh. Then the opposite of comedy almost is the one that has a sad ending. It evokes a lot of emotions in us. It makes us even shed tears. So sometimes you see a tragic movie, and then you see one character suffering all the way from the beginning to the end. You also see some where if it is comedy, it's all one laughter, another one, ironies here and there. Then we have a third type called tragic comedy, which combines the features of a comedy and tragedy, a mixture of plays where you'll be joyful, ecstatic, and another side where the emotion of sadness would be instead. So comedy, laughter, tragedy, sadness, tragicomedy, a combination of the features of both types of drama combined into a newer form of drama, tragicomedy. Let's quickly look at some of the dramatic terms, just some, and then we end this section. Some of the dramatic terms. A hero or heroine or protagonist is the main character in a drama, around or a drama, even a movie, whatever the case is, around whom the storyline revolves. The main character who pushes the storyline is called the hero if it's a male, a heroine if it's a female, and the general term is the protagonist. And then the opposite, the one that fights against the hero, could be one or it could be two, it could be many. It's called the villain, or as you can see from the term antagonist. And the villain antagonizes the protagonist or the hero or the heroine. So you see movies, you see the hero, and you see some very bad person the hero is trying to overcome, and they fight each other. So those are the hero and the villain. Then we have some types of character. We have the dynamic character. This is the character that evolves, that changes according to the storyline. It's dynamic because when we say something is dynamic, it's not flat. It changes, it evolves, it grows, is able to turn and twist to match situations. Any character that is able to change form, the next time he's investigating, the next time he's fighting, another time he's calm, according to the situation, that character is said to be dynamic. And the very opposite of the dynamic character is a flat character, a character that, if it's cruel from the act one, scene one, he will be cruel in the final act and the final scene of the entire drama. If they are good from the beginning, they are good throughout. So they don't change according to scene or situation, they are just flat. And then we have something called the dramatic irony. A dramatic irony has to do with when uh, the characters in the play are not aware of something, but the audience are aware of it. And so it's an irony in that the character doesn't know, but the audience know. So the character is walking, there is a hole right in front of the character. He doesn't know that he's about to fall, but the audience know. That's a dramatic irony. And so he falls into the hole. But before he falls, the audience know he doesn't know. Then we have a side where uh, a character says something to another character on stage, and then about another character uh, that would not be the character about whom he makes the statement is not aware of that. So character could say, "I'll be there this afternoon," and then he turns. That's not true, you know. So yeah, it's a side. And then we have soliloquy. Soliloquy has to do with the character voicing his or her mind on stage. The first time I saw that movie, it was a very interesting one. I really enjoyed it. I'm thinking aloud, so I'm soliloquizing. It's called soliloquy. So these are some of the dramatic terms. There are quite a number of them that we could talk about as time goes on. So we've come to see what literature is generally. We've come to see the three main types of literature: prose, drama, poetry. The next session, we'll discuss some literary devices. So stay tuned.